Hey tribe, welcome back. In today's video, we're going to be differentiating between paranoid personality disorder versus schizoid personality disorder versus schizotypal personality disorder, so stay tuned. Okay, so jumping into it, for paranoid personality disorder, this begins in early adulthood. Someone is paranoid about other people without any real evidence or justification. They take something that's nothing and turn it into something. They are paranoid. And what to look for. Someone who doesn't trust others and is very suspicious of people without any real cause or justification. They believe people have ulterior motives and want to exploit, harm, or deceive them in some way. The person is preoccupied with these untrusting thoughts / unloyalty towards people around them, so friends, associates. This person reads too much into things. They hold grudges. They can even have these suspicious, untrusting thoughts of infidelity towards their spouse without any evidence or justification. So when we look at this right here, paranoid personality disorder, they're paranoid about the people around them, whether it's, family members, friends, associates. It could even be their spouse, right? They think that they're kind of like out to get them. And notice right here where it says without any real evidence or justification. So keep that in mind where the test is presenting a situation to us. And if they want us to differentiate which disorder this is, if we're seeing that someone is very paranoid about the intentions of the people around them, again, whether it's friends, family, associates, their spouse, like, oh, you got ulterior motives, you're doing something, I know you're doing something with no real just cause. Paranoid personality disorder. Now when we move on to schizoid personality disorder, schizoid being emotionally distant. Zoid, I actually Googled this. So zoid is botany. A zoid or zoid is a reproductive cell that possesses one or more flagella and is capable of independent movement. So keep that in mind. Zoid speaks to independent movement, right? So this begins in early adulthood. Someone who is distant / detached from social relationships, and the person also has a restricted range of expression of emotions and they are interacting with others. So real quick, schizoid personality disorder, right? If schizoid is being emotionally distant, right? You're not as connected with other people, and zoid is independent movement, meaning you kind of do your own thing. You prefer to be alone. When you look at it, this is the context clues where it's like, oh, this is what this disorder relates to, right? And when we continue to read, AKA, the person is not exactly a social butterfly and doesn't care to be one. They aren't the most expressive people either. So that flat affect, remember your affect is how you express and present yourself to the world, your facial expressions, right? Flat affect is kind of, right, no real expression. There's no, and I'll put this right here, there's no I in team, but there's an I in zoid. I'm over here, y'all can stay over there. They don't understand relationships, pick up on social cues, etc. We zoid out here. So just as a way to remember, when you think of zoid, there's no I in team, but there's an I in zoid, meaning they like to operate by themselves. And again, zoid, independent movement. They're independent. They like to be by themselves. They don't do the whole social thing, right? And what to look for? Someone who does not enjoy or even care about close relationships, such as being part of a family, usually does things by themselves, and doesn't take pleasure in doing many things at all, has little or no desire for sex, doesn't care what other people think about them. So compliments or criticism, they could care less whether people are saying like, oh yeah, great job, you're good at this, da, da, da. Or if someone's being critical of them, they're like, I could care less, to be honest. Affect is usually flat. Again, your affect, how you present, your facial expressions, how you present to the world. Kind of like that unbothered look. I don't care type of look. So when we're looking between paranoid personality disorder, they're paranoid about the people around them. They think they have ulterior motives. They think they're doing something to harm them in some type of way. Like they may think their spouse is like cheating on them. And again, without any real evidence, justification, or anything like that, right? When we go to schizoid personality disorder, again, there's no I in team, but there's an I in Zoid. Zoid being independent. They're not a social butterfly. They prefer to do their own thing, and they don't really get much pleasure out of, activities in general. And they really don't get the whole social connection relationship thing. They're just like, nah, no, thank you type of thing, right? And with schizotypal personality disorder, begins in early adulthood, someone who lacks close relationships with others and can have social anxiety due to paranoid thoughts and fears of other people. But here's where it starts to get different, right? AKA, I'm not your typical person. I'm a bit odd. So when I see a schizotypal, like typical person, right? It's like, I'm not your typical person. I'm a bit odd. That's what you really want to look for with this. Again, what to look for? Someone whose thinking, speech, and behavior are considered odd. Example, they could perceive events in the future, like that show, That's So Raven, if you guys remember that, where she got like, and then she'll have like, just images of the future and everything, right? Superstitious, magical thinking. That's when someone believes their thoughts, words, or actions can influence things in the world. Paranoid, telepathy, sixth sense, struggles to remain on topic when talking at times. Their affect, remember how their facial expressions, how they're presenting themselves to the world. Their affect can be seen as inappropriate or constricted, so showing less emotions. So when you see schizotypal, think of the last part of it, typal, like typical. I'm not your typical person, right? Very odd behavior, superstitious, believe almost kind of like they have powers, right? They have that type of influence in the world where they're superstitious and everything, right? When we scroll back up again to schizoid personality disorder, there's no I in team, but there's an I in Zoid. They like to do things by themselves. Zoid being more so that independent movement. They don't really get a lot of pleasure in doing things in general, and they really aren't the social butterfly. They want to be by themselves, and they want to kind of literally do their own thing. They don't have desires for like sex or nothing like that. They're just off on their own, right? Independent. Schizotypal, a bit of a oddball, right? A bit of an odd person. They're very unique in, how they kind of approach the world. And then when you go back up to paranoid personality disorder, they're paranoid. They're paranoid about the people around them, their intentions and everything. So when you get these, if you were to get these answer choices on one of the questions on the exam, you can look at those and say, okay, if nothing else, I know paranoid personality disorder, it relates to the person being paranoid about the people around them and their intentions, right? Schizoid personality disorder, it relates to them being independent, doing their own thing, right? They don't really get a lot of pleasure in things in general, but they're not a social butterfly. There's no I in team, but there's an I in Zoid, and Zoid independent. And when you talk about schizotypal, the type of person, right? Do you see that last part? Typal, I think a typical, they're not the typical person. They're very odd. They believe they have almost like superpowers, a sixth sense, very superstitious, magical thinking, right? So just something to really keep in mind to help you remember to how to identify what the question gives us, what they're describing in the scenario, so we can pick the correct answer. Okay, tribe, that's it for today's video. Again, just a nice one differentiating between paranoid personality disorder versus schizoid personality disorder versus schizotypal personality disorder. It's just some fun memory tricks to help us so that we can identify and select the best answer. As always, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and tell a social work friend because we don't want to be licensed by ourselves. Study groups every Saturday. Fill out the form where it has all the information, and again, pay whatever dollar amount you want. All right, tribe, I'll see you next video.